We have new information in the deaths of 6 Kansas City firefighters. It concerns an explosion that happened back in 1988. Tonight, more than 30 years later, we're seeing 2 new names in a newly released Department of Justice report. Just hours after this report was released, we already have reaction from the Jackson County prosecutor. She says there should be a review given that there is no statute of limitations for murder. Here's investigative reporter Angie Riccono.
Here's the report. The names are the security guards who worked at the construction site, Donna Costanza and Deborah Riggs. These are pictures we found on social media. Their names have never been officially connected to this case until now. Before we dive into the new information, we want to explain what happened and remember who died in that explosion. James Kilvinton's father is one of 6 firefighters killed in that 1988 explosion.
He loved what he was doing. He loved being a firefighter. He died what he loved doing. All 6 of them did.
The firefighters were battling a construction fire. They had no idea a trailer contained explosives. The blast was so powerful it knocked people out of bed and moved homes off foundations. It broke a city's heart.
We are here to pay tribute to 6 very brave men.
Who was responsible remained a mystery for almost a decade. The case was even featured on Unsolved Mysteries.
There is currently a $50,000 reward being offered in this case.
Posters went up in jails. Rewards were offered for information. 5 self-described troublemakers from a nearby neighborhood were eventually arrested. They all maintained their innocence. Those offered lie detector tests passed. They turned down plea deals. Some had alibis. The case went to court. Prosecutors argued the group wanted to steal tools and set the fire as a diversion. There was no physical evidence or eyewitnesses. Criminals testified for the prosecution in exchange for deals and even cash. They claimed the group bragged about the crime. 4 men and 1 woman were convicted. But the case never really went away. The Kansas City Star dug into the fatal fire. Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter Mike McGraw questioned the convictions. His reporting revealed alternate suspects and a new motive for the crime. The newly released report confirms much of his reporting, that people interviewed by the FBI claimed a security guard wanted to burn her truck for insurance money. KCPD crime scene photos document a burned truck at the scene. This newly unredacted document reveals this important paragraph. During its review, the review team identified several newly developed pieces of information that were not previously known to the prosecution. Significantly, this newly developed information suggests that Deborah Riggs and Donna Costanza may have been involved in the arsons, in addition to, and not to the exclusion of the defendants.
So it seemed like an important case to me to dig into.
Attorneys at Shook, Hardy and Bacon fought years for the information, saying transparency matters. Attorneys for the people convicted agree.
I think it matters because we want to know what happened. We want to know who's responsible for what, for the explosions that night.
3 people remain in prison. Earl Shepard died. Brian Shepard was freed due to new federal sentencing guidelines.
I hope that it does help them. You know, they deserve to be out here just like I am.
It's unclear what this new information will mean for those who remain in prison, and the guards now named in this Department of Justice report.
And I think no one has really had an opportunity to put it all together. And now's the time. Let's put it all together and see what we have.
If you were curious about what happened to the guards, we wondered too. A combination of public records and Facebook gave us some answers. Donna Costanza now lives in Brooklyn. We reached out to her for comment, but didn't hear back. Deborah Riggs appears to be a grandmother living in Texas. We previously flew to Texas and knocked on her door, and we reached out to her again now that she's named in a report. We haven't heard back. Angie Racono, KCTV5 News.
It has been called the darkest day in the Kansas City Fire Department's history.
November 29th, 1988. 6 firefighters were killed in a massive early morning explosion.
Prosecutor Jean Peters Baker is now calling for a review of that blast. That's because a newly released Department of Justice report includes the names of 2 people who have never faced charges. It stops short, though, of calling them suspects.
Tonight, you'll learn firsthand what those security guards told investigators decades ago. Here's investigative reporter Angie Racono.
We've reviewed thousands of pages of police interrogations, and we've connected with an original detective in this case. But the most intriguing piece might be a recorded interview tucked away in the case file.
This is the videotaped statement of Deborah Riggs regarding the explosion that occurred on 11/29 of '88.
Meet Debbie Riggs.
Tell me exactly the chain of events.
I was sitting right here in a pickup truck.
She's one of 2 security guards named in a Department of Justice report.
I saw 2 men.
The document says Deborah Riggs and Donna Costanza may have been involved in the arsons. It killed 6 Kansas City firefighters. Here's Riggs hours after the explosion.
We could see the fire.
She's being interviewed by Detective Victor Zent because she was a security guard at that construction site where 2 fires were set.
There's a ridge right here, and you can't see the trailers because of the ridge, but we could see flame.
One fire caused an explosion. It instantly killed 6 Kansas City firefighters. The other fire was her truck.
We called the police.
Riggs is visibly pregnant at a chalkboard explaining how she left her truck to look for presumed prowlers with her brother. Robert Riggs was in charge of security.
You have a radio in your truck?
15 minutes into the interview, Detective Zen asks this question.
Did you take that with you when you went on
Yes.
the quick trip? Okay. What all was left in your truck?
My purse. That's about it.
The keys to the vehicle left
Yeah,
in
the
it?
keys in the vehicle.
Prowlers were never found. No one steals the truck with the keys and purse in it. It's burned.
That just struck me as odd.
Detective Zen is now retired.
Logical thing to me, knowing bad guys like I do, I did 38 years as a cop, would be for me to steal that truck.
It was completely in a blaze. I'd never seen a fire so strong. I mean, the flames were real high in it.
Police reports show they determined the fire was, quote, incendiary in nature. It is believed flammable liquid was introduced into the cab area. The detective writes about the purse left behind. The purse contained ID to Debbie A. Riggs. The contents were undamaged by the fire. The purse of vinyl construction has received minor fire damage to the exterior. Another report reveals her gun was also left behind in the truck, and the wooden handle was slightly damaged.
It doesn't make sense.
The truck, purse, and gun always bothered Zen.
If I get down there and the truck's running, keys are in it, I'm going to hop in, I'm going to take the truck. Or at the very least, I'm going to take the purse. If I can see the gun, I'm a bad guy. That gun is like a big chunk of gold or a huge rock of cocaine. And they didn't do that.
I need to change tapes.
Police records show Deborah Riggs spoke with police numerous times. She passed a polygraph test. She's never called a suspect. She's now a grandmother in Texas, according to Facebook. Police records reveal tips throughout the years, alleging Debbie Riggs wanted her truck destroyed for insurance money. She's confronted about it in 1995. Detective Emerson asked Miss Riggs if she had intentionally burned her vehicle, and her reply was no. He then advised her that information had been received that Donna Costanza had burned her vehicle for her because it had a lot of mechanical problems, and she again denied any knowledge. She stated Donna Costanza did not have the guts to set a vehicle on fire. Donna Costanza is the other person named in that newly released Department of Justice report. She was also a security guard. Federal agents wrote she dated Debbie Riggs. Police briefly spoke to Costanza the day of the fire about a woodcutter. There's no record of a formal interview related to police documented tips that she may be involved. In fact, that newly released DOJ report states Costanza does not appear to have been interviewed by law enforcement prior to the review team's interviews. That first formal interview appears to be in November of 2009, 21 years after the explosion. Here's what federal agents wrote. Costanza also stated that prior to the evening of the arson and explosions, Riggs asked Costanza if she was interested in burning Riggs' truck for insurance money. Costanza said that she refused. A combination of public records and Facebook reveals Donna Costanza now lives in Brooklyn.
What about Donna Costanza?
We never really got a good grip on her or anything from her. I think some of it was the time and distance and hard to locate her.
For years, detectives and federal agents were chasing other leads, like union sabotage gone horribly wrong. There were also tips regarding woodcutters, organized crime, and even speculation of witchcraft and devil worshippers.
I'm innocent.
You're innocent?
I'm innocent.
Police eventually zeroed in on 5 people from the nearby Marlboro neighborhood. They went to trial and were convicted.
So let me ask you this. Do you think all of the responsible people are in prison?
No. I think that there are other people that were involved either primarily or in the peripheral that are involved in this. But the facts just don't fit up. They don't fit at all.
Do you want to see the case reopened?
I think it should be. My opinion is there's people walking around out there that should not be walking around.
Our investigation continues online. We have attempted to reach both Debbie Riggs and Donna Costanza. Neither have responded to our request for an interview. Angie Riccono, KCTV5 News.
I'm innocent though, Angie. I promise you that. I'll put that on my kid's life. I'm innocent.
That desperate plea from prison comes from a man named Richard Brown. He's one of 3 people serving a life sentence for an explosion which killed 6 Kansas City firefighters back in 1988. Here's investigative reporter Angie Riccono.
We spoke to the 3 people who remain in prison. They all swear they are innocent and hope new information sets them free.
I'm innocent.
You're innocent?
I'm innocent.
Richard Brown has spent half of his life in prisons for a 1988 construction fire which killed 6 firefighters. He's currently at Coleman in Florida, a sprawling complex with 4 prisons.
I've seen some gruesome stuff go on, you know what I mean? So, I've seen people get killed right in front of me. I mean, I've been in race riots.
Brown has little faith in a newly unsealed Department of Justice report. It reveals 2 new names, security guards who worked there. The document says Deborah Riggs and Donna Costanza may have been involved in the arsons. Public records and social media show both women now live out of state. Debbie Riggs is a grandmother in Texas. Donna Costanza lives in Brooklyn. Neither have responded to our request for comment.
I don't think they're going to do shit with it, though. I think exactly what they're going to do is like they did to everything else. You know what I mean? They got it. Now that it's out there, you know what I mean, you or somebody else is going to splash it all over the news, and it's going to be out there for about a month. And then they're going to say they're going to do something, then 3 years down the line, it's unheard of again.
The report doesn't clear the current defendants. It suggests others are involved too. Is that possible for those people to be involved and that you guys are guilty as well?
No,
Why?
because we didn't do it.
Do you know them at all?
No, those security guards, not at all. Like I told you earlier, and for me to even know who they are, they would have to come up and show me their ID. And I'd have to look at the picture, I'd go, wow.
Darlene Edwards is now 67, the only woman convicted in the fatal arsons. Edwards and the other defendants were all offered 5-year deals if they turned on each other. They all turned it down.
Well, 5 years, run concurrent with the drug charge that I pled guilty on, a new identity, a reward, a home, a car, blah, 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 for me and my kids anywhere in the United States.
I find that as odd.
That always bothered an original detective on the case.
Nobody rolled. That is, from the fights and spats and distrust that I see in these reports, that's not a tight-knit, loving family. Somebody would have said something by now.
Quit looking at us as being the guilty party.
We also spoke to Frank Shepard. He's now 71 and not at all surprised the Department of Justice took another look at the case and kept information secret for a decade.
That's how the government operates. They went down the wrong path, apparently, on this case, and the government just doesn't ever want to admit they're wrong. That's how the United States government is.
The Jackson County prosecutor previously said she believes a review is warranted given that no statute of limitations exists for murder. But her actions won't affect the people that you just heard from. They were convicted on federal charges. The U.S. attorney isn't budging in the case, saying the Department of Justice found no evidence to cast doubt on the validity of those convictions, just that others may be involved too. Angie Racono, KCTV5 News.